Welcome, listeners. This is episode 4, Adventures in DeFiKingdoms. This is Raph streaming to you live above the keep in the hot air balloon. So far, we haven't had any owners of the hot air balloon complain to us, and so we're hoping that squatters' rights take over here soon, and this becomes the Adventures hot air balloon. Tonight, I have with me, and today is December 18th on a Saturday, and so we got a special after dark podcast with Walton, our third investing partner, and with 9dorf's. Say hi, guys.
How's it going?
Hello.
Start with introduction. You got me into the cryptocurrency space. I think maybe it was about a year and a half ago. Tell me a little bit about your journey so far in crypto and how we got you into DeFiKingdoms.
Yeah, so it started probably about a little over a year ago. My buddy got me actually started on it way back in the day on, funny that I say this, but XRP, which is now a banned crypto that you can't trade anymore. And anyways, it made me start to look into more, create a Reddit account, did a lot more research, and have been investing in crypto ever since. It's been pretty good for me. And then with DeFiKingdoms, we ended up, you were the one, Raph, that told me about that. And I had told you that I was always interested in getting into one of these NFT to play games. Like I've mentioned to you guys before, one of the ones that was mentioned to me was Zed Run. And I didn't really feel like it was the right time to get in for that one. You guys told me this one was coming out. I was interested, did some research on it. Looked like it was a great thing. And I went 100% into it, and it's been good ever since. So
for our listeners out there, we've been able to drop or sneak in a Jurassic Park quote every episode. And so I thought it'd be fun this time to have 9dorf give a little explanation about the place that Jurassic Park holds in our hearts, near and dear to us. So why don't you tell the Jurassic Park story from our...
So you mean it just being a great movie in and of itself isn't enough? No, yeah, it's it's one of those stories, the typical college story, I would say, right? Wasn't it at your college house, I believe, you had this table, right?
That's
Wasn't
right.
it a poker table, I think, if I'm remembering correctly?
It was you are correct. It's a poker table that once you flipped it over upside down, it had increase in value. And so,
Yes.
yeah, we used to play some other games. Why don't you explain?
Yeah. So we it was a game in college that we loved and called Landmines. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but long story short, you finish your beer, it becomes a landmine. You gotta put it in front of your buddy to hope he knocks it over and blows up the landmine and runs out of lives. It's basically a great opportunity to, well, I guess drink a lot of beer. But the fun part about this one is, Raph, I think your record in this game was pretty good. You want to tell us about your record?
Yeah, I think I've won twice, but it's not really an outright victory. The funny thing about this game is it often ends with people just wandering away from the table, falling asleep on a couch, or doing something else. Obviously, after we left college, we really haven't had the chance to play the game too many times since then. Maybe only once or twice. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And what we ended up, one night after the game, just writing Jurassic Park quotes onto the table.
That's right.
So everything that we could think of that just popped into our mind. And so, the Jurassic Park classics have been with us ever since.
Oh yeah, and it's something that we just for whatever reason it's just that random moment, and it just like you said, it lives on, and we there's some great ones for pretty much every opportunity in life that you can find a Jurassic Park quote. Turns out.
Absolutely. All right. Well, why don't you tell us about your question of the day you have prepared?
Yeah, sure. So last time it was, what was a big, mistake or whoopsies in the game. And I thought, well, that kind of leads into another good topic. With these markets and crypto being so crazy, what do you guys think? Crypto anxiety, is that something you have? Does it you get hung up on the ups and downs? What do you think?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, a little bit. I'd be lying to say if I wasn't a slight bit nervous. I'll talk about this a little bit later as well in our price discussion, but something that helped me gain a little bit of security or comfortability is, I made sure with playing DeFi Kingdoms that every amount in US dollars that I put into the game, I initially cashed out. Actually, at the last time that Jewel hit about $10, I cashed out that amount to make sure that I knew that I was at least playing with house money from that point forward. So, yeah, definitely still a little bit of crypto anxiety. I think if you don't have that, maybe there might be something wrong with you too. So, what about you, Walton?
Been in the crypto for a while now. You obviously know the ups and downs, and back when I got into it, it just was going up and up and up, and you have to understand at one point it's going to go down. And I was my strategy was trying to be the same as yours, but with us purchasing another Gen Zero hero, I actually completely fully invested for my initial investment into the game. So it's not play money for me. It's, as you'll realize when you play this game, you start to enjoy it more and more, especially with how they evolve it over time. And so you want to get out at times, but then you find, hey, I got to keep on pushing forward. And you end up, whether it's trying to summon new heroes or, get a rare hero that you've been waiting for a while. That comes up at times, and it's hard to keep your money out that you originally want to. So you end up investing more and more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with both of you. I would say that I definitely have some of those positions in some cryptos here and there that I have money staked, and I'm just going to leave it and forget about it for 5 years. Not the case with what we've got going on here with DeFi Kingdoms and Jewel, though, that's for sure.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about, usually in our past podcasts, we've gone into our projects at the end of the podcast, but we have some exciting news today in the messages chat that we have going on. Walton was ribbing you, 9dorf, about the
Yes.
status of the alert system, and it feels like it kind of kicked you into high gear.
Yeah, it did. I kind of kicked off my winter break here a little bit early. I had some extra vacation to burn for the end of the year. So I took a few hours today to, put a little effort into the alert tool, and we got some good work going here now where we're getting updates on some settings that we had. So yeah, we've definitely got a functional prototype at this point. I'd say the plan for me moving forward over the next few weeks is to probably move it to a hosted site, maybe like a Heroku or something like that that's free at first, that doesn't take a lot of power or bandwidth. So yeah, it's really cool to see that, move forward here.
Yeah, and speaking of your question of the day, we put a few alerts out there today, and I guess kind of to catch some of our listeners up to speed, maybe backtracking a couple steps. So you're developing an alert system that goes and scrapes the data, and based on certain hero criteria, actually looks at the tavern and helps announce or sends a text message to us on heroes becoming available. And so we've set price, what generation is the hero, what rarity status is the hero, and you've added a few new attributes as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I'm trying to make more of things available that you would basically put as your filters in the tavern itself. I mean, we're not there yet. We'll get there. We'll add them slowly over time, but I think it's getting closer and closer. And yeah, it was funny today. You had one that you wanted me to configure for you, and it hit, I don't know what, in like 3 minutes, I think it was, after we launched it.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I was like, oh, all right, it's the prototype's working. Congratulations, well done.
That's right. Maybe I should call this my tool to separate raph from his Jewel.
Yeah, well, it was fairly effective today. And then, like I started into, speaking of your question, anxious or crypto anxiety, we clearly found an anxious seller on the market. And I saw we were looking at legendary Gen 1s is kind of what I had my eyes set on. I think there's a lot of value there. If you do have enough Jewel available to swoop up a legendary, something that really sticks out to me. And actually, this is rares, legendaries, and mythics. They all have the ability 5 levels to gain an increased number of stat points. And it feels like there is a value difference between really legendaries and even between the legendaries and mythics, that legendaries feel like they're just at a great spot right now, in my mind, from kind of a price standpoint. And I'm a little bit betting on the future. And then, like you said, it's clearly separating me from my Jewel. So I swooped up and grabbed a legendary Gen 1 for 250 Jewel today. Now, Jewel is still pretty high market price. You've been looking at the price of Jewel here, Walton, and we're on December 18th again. So where are we at for the total price of Jewel compared to US dollars?
So Jewel right now, I just looked at it a few minutes ago, $10.08, and I want to be maybe 5 days to a week ago is just sitting at $6.50, and I think that kind of ties into with you getting a good price on a hero, people that are able to get higher price for their Jewel is more willing to sell at a lower price. And that's something that we've kind of talked about before, with regards to, maybe holding on to Jewel or even getting in Jewel at the right time.
That's certainly something that's been playing in my mind in terms of how, I understand that as we were all relatively early investors into DeFiKingdoms, we can come at this with a bit of a privileged mindset, in that we were reaping some of those early rewards with the amount of Jewel coming out. And so, holding Jewel when the price is low makes a lot of sense for these spikes in Jewel. And that's, when trading in US dollars. But if you kind of take a really long run perspective of the game, which we've been trying to do, it feels like there's at least in my opinion, a lot of value in getting some of these lower Jewel costs, although granted higher dollar value cost heroes, as I anticipate, kind of the cost of Jewel to level out or average out in the future, and probably come down a little bit from where it's at now. So I feel like I got a good deal. And 9dorf's alert system is working pretty well. So,
and I'm not trying to take away from you. I'm not saying it's not a good deal. I do think it is a good deal. And obviously, if you can get in on some of these rare heroes with the Jewel price dropping, I say go for it, especially with, leveling up, I think is key. And the faster you can hold on to something that you're going to hold on to and start leveling it up, the better you're going to be off.
Yeah. And Walton, you've been kind of out of the three of us, doing the most kind of action on a day-to-day basis with trading or buying and then selling heroes and looking for value in the marketplace. Now, I know you've had a few things pop up in your personal life, and you've been taken away from the game for about a week now. But tell our listeners, just some of the experiences that you've had and the value that you're looking for when you're buying and selling heroes.
Yeah, so basically what I try to do is I try to match up professions with the type of hero that it is. Like, for example, if you want to do a miner, you're best off looking for a knight, dark knight, or a paladin, or a warrior. And then I also try to look at ones that have stat bonuses on top of that. And I think those stat bonuses will equal out, or not equal out, but have more advantage over the long run when you're going for some of these heroes. And that's one of the things that I've been seeing when I've been trying to buy, for example, some fishermen or whatnot. I think a ninja is going to be the top. It's going to be the top one for being a fisherman. And they already start off with really good base stats. And if you could find one that has a boosted fisherman stat on top of that, I mean, I think you're going to be doing good. And that's one thing that I've seen when I'm looking at the prices of heroes. I mean, when I first started doing it, more or less looking at Gen 1s only and kind of seeing where it's going. Well, that's something that's fun to do, and you can kind of make ahead of it at times, but there's times that it's caught me too, because one thing that I've noticed and the things that I've talked to you guys about, and you kind of want to be cautious if you want to try to do buy or sell, because I've done it and I've been caught sometimes. And one thing that you got to look at is the price of jewel. If it starts going up, the price that you might have bought it at down, because you have obviously other competitors that you're selling against. And so there's been times where I've bought in a hero, gotten a great price on it, and literally maybe 4 or 5 days, I'd be lucky to even get what I paid for it. And I'd more or less have to sell it at a 25 to 50 jewel decrease. And that's one thing that I think you guys need to take a look at. If you're trying to buy into heroes, the hero market's up and down. So you might have gotten it at a bad price maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and it might be a better price down the road from there. I mean, with these heroes leveling up and everything, I think there's going to be more increased value. So don't feel like you miss out right away. For the people that are trying to buy and sell within the same day, you really got to find a great price and, kind of offer it at really low floor price on top of that in order to sell it within the same day. And if you're trying to flip it, it's best to do it within the same day. So, like I said, I've just been trying to look. I've seen a lot of value in what matches up with your profession and basically the class and everything that matches up with it.
Yeah, talking about leveling up, I agree that there's going to be a lot of value there in the future. Maybe 9dorf, tell us, do you got any guys at level 3 yet, or how close are you?
Not quite. I'm getting pretty close. I think I got a couple of my heroes, the ones that I at least, plan on kind of holding long term, about back up to the 2000 XP mark again. So out of 3, because I think it went up to 3000 to get to level 3.
That's
so I'm
right.
getting there. I think I'll need a few more days, but yeah, those guys I'm eagerly anticipating. I had a pretty lucky quest run with 6 heroes the other day where they came back with 3 runes between them all, and I was like, that's by far the best quest run I've ever had. So I'm ready. Let's get these guys leveling up.
Nice. And so something that you and I have been talking about, when it comes to leveling up and the future of the game, maybe looking beyond the profession quest, is the combat quest. And Hubert brought up in the last AMA that you can send out a party of 3 heroes for a combat quest, and that heroes that they originally balanced all of their base stats around combat. And so trying to carve place for all the basic and advanced classes, to ultimately have balance when it comes to battling. How is that, have you been thinking about this anymore since we last, spoke over a podcast? And how is this potentially affecting your long-term strategy of the game?
Yeah, I've definitely kept considering all of this, because it's funny, you look at your roster of heroes here, and I think what Walton was saying kind of resonates with me, because matching profession and having the right stat boost there is huge. I've got a common ninja. So, you're like, oh, he's a ninja. Sure, that's great, but he's still just a common. He's level 2 now, and he's got like 28 points in fishing already, and he's gotten some really good questing pulls for me. So it's like that guy for me, like, on my roster, his goal is just to go out and quest. And then there's some other guys where it's like, well, okay, your profession doesn't match, but your stats are decent. Like that, I think I had talked in the past about I got a rare warrior paladin who he's got a purple vitality, and I'm like, well, that's actually great. He's going to be my tanky. Let's put all the vitality in him. He's going to be that front runner, absorb all the damage in combat. So I'm trying to kind of mix all of that together, and I got the spreadsheet I got here where I track heroes, kind of put bold or asterisk by the ones that these are my questers and these are my combat guys. And it's interesting to kind of see which ones have been jumping back and forth between those 2 lists, honestly.
You're trying to keep two perspectives in mind, because right now, the profession quests are the only way to level up your heroes. An amount of efficiency there is good, as you'll get the level ups earlier, you'll get the stat boosts then sooner in the game. But ultimately, the end game might be, thinking about life after profession quests, and how do you make sure your heroes are also combat ready as well. And so that'll be playing into my, when I leveled up from 1 to 2, I pretty much only chose stats that would help the profession that they were in, thinking about, then I'll gain experience faster. And I think, going forward in the future, I'm going to be considering, how do I affect my potential combat future of my hero more than I did during the first level up.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one that I've been considering is, like the knights and the warriors that have like very little wisdom or intelligence, and then that could make them very susceptible to, typically in RPG games, like any sort of magic attacks, or maybe even like, your archers, they're not able to dodge or whatnot, with agility. So it's like, I think you don't want, stats that are so high compared to low that you basically create vulnerabilities in your character. I think you almost need to get a balanced approach. And I know we've talked about this a little bit, but like your thieves and your monks in the game right now kind of seem like garbage characters because they're those generalists, right? But I think once that combat opens up and they don't really have a weakness, maybe not a great strength either, but definitely not a weakness. The value of those characters might just keep increasing.
I like it. So now we're going to go to our segment of the Gen Zero check-in. So this last time, it was my turn, and we decided that we were going to take 2 turns of sharing our Gen Zeros. And so, again, a Gen Zero monk and a Gen Zero pirate that the 3 of us went in on together. And the kind of the system that we've developed is each person gets 2 summoning chances with each of the heroes, and they're both on approximately the same 3-day cooldown timer. And so, the possible strategies that you can have are hiring them out, which 9dorf did, I think, the last time, summoning them together, or hiring a partner or hiring a pair for each of the 2 heroes. This last time, I decided that on both of my turns, I was going to hire out a pair for each of them. And, I tried to, go for bust one of the times and hired out a mythic, which just totally backfired and shot myself in the foot. I got a real Steve the Pirate after that. I pretty much cried myself to sleep that night, spending the extra jewel to hire with a mythic. And then getting a common pirate afterwards. That was pretty disappointing. But the next round, I feel like the heroes redeemed themselves, and I ended up pulling a Gen 1 legendary. And I'm also going with the strategy of Sandwich Punch. Check out his articles on Medium if you haven't yet. Great resource. And we also talked about it on the last podcast. And that strategy is, instead of trying to go for the advanced pair right on that first summon, instead try to go for a pure version of that next level hero. And the goal there is that your main class and then the recessive genes of your main class, if they could become the same. And so you summon a monk and a monk together with the goal that your offspring, the main class, is a monk, and then the first recessive gene is a monk. And that allows for, hopefully, less variance when you're summoning down the road. So unfortunately, my recessive genes did not play out in that favor, but I tried that strategy nonetheless. So Walton, it's your turn now, and you have both heroes have been delivered to you safely. It's always a bit terrifying as they go across the blockchain. What are your plans, and what have you been thinking about?
So I think not only do you have to think about what you're trying to get, but you also have to consider the jewel. with jewel prices and everything that's going on right there to make it a little bit more interesting. And right now with me, I've kind of invested a lot in the heroes. So I'm going to try using both Gen Zeros together as my first summon and hope it's not a Steve the Pirate situation. And, honestly, if it turns out to be a great summon, I'll probably run out for my next two. As we've seen when we started to, and anyone that's summoned a lot of these heroes, one thing to take into consideration is, you think if you're going to rent out a mythic or a legendary, you're guaranteed something. I think right when we first started, I rented out a mythic for like 300 jewel back in the day and I still got like a rare Gen 1, which at the time was going to go for what I rented out for. But I think anybody that's trying to summon, you got to take into consideration just because you go with a mythic or a legendary, your chances are improved. I'm not going to say they're not, but it's still very hard to get one of those. And obviously with the case of, there has to be a rarity for that mythic and the legendary. So like I said, I think I'm just going to go with my two summons right away. And then I might rent out on the second one. I'm not sure yet on what I'm trying to do yet. But it's nice having two, so you don't feel like you just crap the bed and all right, here they go. I'll wait my turn next time.
Yeah, and it is a pretty cost-effective way. I mean, you are summoning them together for just the summoning cost, and so at this point, that's 30 jewel a piece. You are absolutely guaranteed to get your money back, and so there's really it's a very low risk strategy. And it's funny you talk about the possible value. I built my own expected value calculators, and in the heat of the moment of clicking the hire out a hero button, I got lured into the low cost. I say that in air quotes. The low cost mythic, and so I went against my better judgment there. But ultimately, it's still fun playing the game. So,
and the other thing that's kind of tough too is, as jewel does increase, the cost to rent goes down, and we've seen it drop dramatically. Last time jewel got up to $10, so that's going to be the tough part right now. Is I know the cost to rent's going to be dropping here in the next couple days. Couple days since renting is going to be so what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that renting is going to be a lot cheaper. So I still got to think about it, because it might be better off for me to rent right away and then summon them two together down the road, but we'll see.
Nice. So 9dorf, with your Gen 1s that you got from the last summon session, have you had a chance to put them together? What are your plans with them?
So the Gen 1s that I had gotten were largely Steve the Pirates, to be honest with you. So I think at this point, I've dealed all of them on the tavern. And I was able to use the jewel that I earned from them to purchase a rare summoner with 5 out of 5 left. I think I found him for a steal at I think it was 280 about a week ago. Jewel. Now again, today that's maybe not as great of a deal, but a couple days ago I did finally, my nerves finally abated enough that I decided to pull the trigger with him and rare ninja I had. So I was lucky enough to get a mutated sage, so that actually really paid off. So in a roundabout way, the Gen 1s I produced did actually produce me a sage, but it was a lot of stress. I tell you what, when you want to pull that lever, oof.
Yeah, that going from advanced class, it's still not a great summoning percentage chance to get that Sage or Dragoon. You're only at 15%, and potentially 20% if the recessive genes play in your favor. So it's definitely a little bit of a scary moment, but hopefully that pays off for you. Any plans with what you're going to do with that 3 of 3 sage that you pulled?
Yeah, so at this point I've that's the second 3 of 3 sage I'm holding now. So I'm really tempted to try to hit up Discord, Reddit, or whatnot, and see if someone wants to swap me my 3-3 sage for their 3-3 Dragoon, and see if I can pull the really expensive lever and go for that Dread Knight.
All right. Well, you've heard it here. So, listeners, if you're sitting on a 3-of-3 Dragoon, Discord is XGF115, right? So,
That's right.
hit you up. All right. Good. So, as I mentioned before, we usually close the podcast on our current projects, and we talked about 9dorf's alert system earlier on. And so what we're hoping to do is, and this is a refresher, we talked about this, I believe, during podcast 2, but our first milestone goal is to get to 100 subscribers across all of our platforms. We are on Google Podcasts, on Apple, on Spotify, and on Anchor as well. And once we get to 100 subscribers, we are going to do something like a live stream event. And we're going to put into a randomizer, and we're actually going to select at least 2 of our subscribers to sign them up for your alert system. So as a little bit of a thank you, and, of course, as you mentioned earlier, our alert system is still in development. And so this is coming along. In case we get 100 subscribers tomorrow, we may not turn it on in 2 or 3 days. It might take us about a couple weeks to get there, but something that we're looking forward to, and we're hoping the listeners are looking forward to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny. I thought I'd mention it here during the recording of this podcast. It actually sent me a text saying there was a 3-3 Dragoon out there for sale that just came out. So I got to go check that out real quick.
All right. Well, thanks, 9dorf. Anything that you have closing remarks, Walton?
No, I think you guys did a good job.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And again, this is the Adventures in DeFiKingdoms crew broadcasting live high above the keep in the hot air balloon. So please subscribe, and we look forward to catching you on the next episode. Thank you.